clean up ABC laws.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is sub 3 of general laws. First we're going to start with taking the roll. Please cast your presents. All right. Everyone is here. So the first bills we will take up will be Senate Bill 325. Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the sub. Madam Chair, this is a very simple bill, but before I get to it, one of the things that we've tried to do in our subcommittee on, I think in both ABC subs, is to clean the ABC code up where we have that opportunity. And David May, who serves both chambers, is probably the king of cleaning that up. And I have John Daniels here from ABC as well. So Mr. May has been scribing up, trying to clean up the code, and I think we can do it through my bill as well. And I don't think it does any harm to my bill, but it'd be up to your discretion, Madam Chair, if we can do that, if Mr. May wouldn't mind covering what he's trying to clean up.
Mr. May.
Madam Chair, this would be one simple line amendment. After line 183, it's at the very end of the bill, it would add on an enactment clause that basically directs the Virginia Code Commission to change references in ABC law from this title to this subtitle. Last year, Title 4.1 was divided into two subtitles, but these changes were not made. This is technical cleanup, and it just makes sure that ABC laws are not affected by any of the other laws in Subtitle 2 that were created.
I'll move the amendment.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill simply allows folks who are traveling out of the state that find these rare purchases that we can't often get in the Commonwealth of select bourbons and other spirits, the opportunity to bring a higher quantity of those back. I think we were limited to 1 gallon, which was about 5 bottles before. Now we can, with this bill, bring in about, where's Mr. Daniels? How much?
3.
How much is it? About a case and a half? About a case and a half of spirits from outside the Commonwealth now. So that would increase it a little bit for us. That's really what the bill does.
Any questions from members of the committee? Anyone in the audience who wants to speak for the bill? Anyone in the audience who wants to speak against the bill?
I'll move to report.
Second.
As amended.
As amended. Yes,
All right. Please cast your vote. Senator Reeves, your bill is out, 8-0.
Thank you, ma'am.
Your second bill that you want to talk about is Senate Bill 402.
Yes, ma'am. This is the work product of the subcommittee that was from both chambers this summer. I believe one of my colleagues in this chamber, I think Delegate Kresick, has the same bill. This changes the Charitable Gaming Board from a regulatory board to an advisory board and changes the makeup and numbers of those board members. The Office of the Inspector General found there were financial conflicts of interest, violations by the members of the board. The Joint Subcommittee listened to testimony and came to the same conclusion. So in order to keep that from happening again as we try to clean up charitable gaming, this is one of those recommendations.
All right. Anyone have any questions? I see no lights on. Anyone in the audience who wants to speak for the bill? Anyone in the audience who wants to speak against the bill?
Madam Chair, Dave Alba, representing Virginia Charitable Bingo Association. We're not against the bill, but we're seeking an amendment so that we can be on board. So I want to draw your attention on the bill to line 1353. That's a line in which the bill strikes the Texas charitable poker regulations that were passed a year ago. So the gaming board, Virginia Charitable Gaming Board, went through a process of about 2 years, because that's how long it takes to get regulations passed, and they passed regulations for Texas Hold'em poker. This strikes those regulations and then asks the board to do new ones. So the essential effect would be that charities would not be able to do Texas Hold'em poker for 2 years. What we're asking is to be able to play under the existing regulations and then draft new ones. And the reason in support of that, and I have two people who want to quickly speak to it, but I want you all to recall that that bingo has been in place. It was in place long before I was even elected, and it was very, very popular. And over the years, the people who like to play bingo have been getting older, and it's kind of a dying hobby. When casinos came in, the bingo people were saying, we are done, because as soon as a casino opens up down the street, no one's coming to play bingo. And as soon as the historical horse racing places open up near it, no one's coming to play bingo, it's over. We would like something to replace it. And what the General Assembly gave them was one game of all the games that casinos have, gave them one game, specific game, Texas Hold'em poker. You can do Texas Hold'em poker. And it's important because the charities prior to the pandemic were raising about $50 million a year for charities. And so the bill does a lot of good things. This is something that we'd like to ask that you would be able to preserve. And the mere ask is just allow Texas charitable gaming to be able to do Texas Hold'em poker during the time from now until when the new regs are written.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Sylvia Alexander Wall. I'm the president of the Ladies of Elegance Incorporated, a social organization here in Richmond, Virginia that has served the Richmond community by hosting breast cancer awareness, sickle cell, multiple sclerosis, and many other various events. Our annual Black Tie Pink, Black, and White Affair dinner raises money for a variety of charitable and community activities. In the past few years, we have partnered with various charities, helping them raise money for our community and charitable events. We have helped with charitable bingo and charitable poker events. Our participation has helped to raise thousands of dollars for our charity as well as others. The bill before you today will freeze some of the charitable events that provide us money we need to carry out our charitable and communal purposes. I'm here today to invite all of you to attend and participate in our regularly scheduled events and see for yourself the immense good and that our group and others like ours provide to our community. Ours is unique, and we would ask that you not force us to postpone our kindness and our charity over regulations that some would like to rewrite. We are here now facing immense challenges that all communities present. These challenges will not wait and will not put on hold. Allow us to participate and benefit in all forms of charitable gaming that this body has previously allowed. Allow us to continue our good work throughout our Commonwealth. It's very important. It helps save lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Sam Kaufman. I'm a member of the Charitable Gaming Board. Quick background, I'm a lawyer. I am not involved in any charities because I'm under the age of 70. I don't think I've ever actually played bingo at a bingo hall, and I pride myself in having a pretty decent social life. I'm a citizen appointee from Senate Rules of that committee. Just to be clear, I have no stake in charitable gaming. I don't run a charity. I don't own a building that rents from a charity. I was simply asked to serve on the board, and I have for the last several years. Charitable gaming, this body passed Texas Hold'em poker. You heard that from Dave. To protect it from the casinos. We're not against the casinos. Casinos are coming. I'm actually excited about the casinos coming. This body passed the law and said, hey, board, go write the regulations. Self-enacting. Doesn't have to go through the APA. So we did that. There are two things I think that are conflating the issue here and that I think when I read it are false. First, the fact that there's some sort of bad things going on in charitable gaming. There's some fraud or whatever it might be. There are bad actors. There are people who set up charities, who run games out of the back of their house, who steal money. That happens. And since I've been on the board, and I don't remember for how long, maybe 4 or 5 years, we've asked this body to give us more money for enforcement. I think we would get about $3 million in fees. About $1.5 million goes to us. $1.5 million goes to the general fund. We've asked for that other $1.5 million back so we could hire people to go get the bad guys. I'd submit to you that you don't shut down the ABC because folks are selling bootleg liquor out of the back of their house. You go get the bad guys. We want that as well. That's number one. Number two, Chuck Lesson has become a name. He's our chair of our board. And there was an issue brought up about some sort of conflict of interest. I don't understand it. It's false. There's no conflict. I'm not here to protect Chuck, but I'm here just to provide you the background quickly. We sat through 13 meetings after this body said, go write the regs. Chuck disclosed not only to the board, but to the Attorney General that he, one, is involved in a charity, and two, was thinking about setting up a for-profit operations company, and he was going to be helping write the regulations. He got an opinion from the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General was at all of our meetings. Attorney General said, one, I'm really not even sure if it's a conflict, but just disclose it. He disclosed it in writing and disclosed it verbally. We had 13 meetings to write these regulations. At those meetings were members of VDAX. I communicated throughout that process with some of those members of VDAX. At least 1 to 2, maybe 3 assistant attorney generals at each meeting. Every lobbyist of things that I don't even understand about video games and casinos were at those meetings. Members of the public were at those meetings. In fact, we had one meeting where all we did was discuss Chuck's involvement in charities. And we wrote the regs. Charities went out and spent a lot of money. They took trips to Vegas to buy Texas Hold'em tables, to learn how to do it. And they relied on that to raise money for these charities. Our board is there to protect the charities. And I understand if this bill passes, it's going to halt Texas Hold'em. And as you know, when it goes to the APA, 2 to 3 years from now, maybe there'll be Texas Hold'em. After there's casino, other places, and we're done. We're done. It's $1 billion a year that gets run through charities. About $50 million of that goes to charities. So I'm asking you to not do that. Let the charities play Texas Hold'em poker. It's the only game they have. That's it. Let them play it. If you want to rework the regs, great. Have at it. Take away the work we did. You want to rework the board? Fine. I got a law practice to operate. Thank you for your time. Appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Anyone have any other questions?
Yes, Madam Chair, I do.
Delegate Torian.
So I'm hearing a couple of things. I'm hearing that they're asking for the regs to be rewritten by VDAX. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, Senator Torian, we're going to give that regulatory.
That's delegate, please.
Delegate Torian. I'm used to saying anything.
That's not in my future.
What will happen is VDAC will take that under control and start writing all those regulations.
So I'm hearing out of the side of my ear that VDAX has already done that. Is that true or not?
Delegate,
Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, Delegate, they have already written some stuff ready to go to be released. There's several other bills here that are in play. One of them is this bill, which would allow them the opportunity to do that. So we had to move about 5 or 6 different bills through. We were going to do an omnibus bill, but we had to make sure there were certain other bills that passed before, because if this bill doesn't pass, then we had to make sure other bills formed up with the correct language. So if it stayed as a board, the other stuff we're trying to correct with regard to charitable gaming would respond back to that board and not directly to VDAX. I don't know if that's clear as mud, but that's how that would work.
Madam Chair, follow up, please. This is what I understand. Now, obviously, Madam Chair, over a period of time, I have voted in favor of casino legislation, and so I'm not opposed to the casino legislation. I think there are a lot of moving parts. I just want to know, what is the harm in allowing these folks to operate while the regs will be written? What is the real harm? I mean, we're moving forward with a lot of casino legislation, so somebody please explain to me what harm. I mean, I think that Madam Chair, in the years when these casinos are in place, a lot of the gaming industry traditionally will be impacted. But someone please tell me who's been hurt by them having this practice while these new regulations are being written.
Madam Chair, Delegate Torian, let me first back up a second and go back to last year. There was a budget amendment that was in place. There was a budget amendment that said no new machines and that all of these things would be frozen in time till we could finish the work of the committee. Despite that, they proceeded forward And this board, whether you want to hear it or not, this is what came out of committee, went ahead and set up all their stuff, despite being told, hey, don't do it yet. And they were trying to promulgate regulations that allowed them to play cash games. Now, I don't play poker. I couldn't tell you how to play one hand of poker. But I do listen to experts. And when you talk about cash games, and I was in law enforcement, it's a lot easier to hide cash than it is a tournament. And so there's this movement afoot amongst that regulatory board to move these things from that original bill that was Senator Peterson's bill, okay, over to cash games. And keep in mind, as you hear testimony here today, the chairman of the Charitable Gaming Board sued his enforcement arm over this very issue. So if you don't think something's afoot, look under the covers. I'm not saying we have written perfect legislation. We're trying to just stop the bleeding to take care of our charities. Would you be surprised to know there's about $1.3 billion in 2 companies out of gross proceeds just in electronic gaming, 70% of which VDAC has no control over? 0 control. That's a lot of money. $1.3 billion. You're talking about a football stadium referendum that was $1 billion, and we're playing $1.3 billion in electronic gaming. Now we're going to go ahead and, I get it, they all want to get and poker's not the only thing. We still have bingo, we still have electronic gaming, but you bet they want to run Texas Hold'em. We don't want them to run cash games. We want to have an idea who's playing what. They're playing still today, even though they're not supposed to be playing. We don't have an enforcement arm to any of this. We were going to give charitable gaming over to lottery, but we can't do it because they don't want it because it's not cleaned up yet. Think of all the entities that we have to clean up in this whole thing. And Madam Chair, I don't mean to get on a rant, but this has been a very difficult and complicated issue, one of which I wish I never stepped into the breach on. I can promise you. But now that we're there, I want to thank this committee for the work they've done. I want to thank my colleague Delegate Kresick for taking it on the chin. It has not been easy because you're talking about billions of dollars that's affecting folks, the least of which are charities that are getting those monies.
Madam Chair, follow up, please.
Delegate Van Valkenburg is on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Madam Chair, question for, I guess, the patron. Now I'm just trying to make sure I'm understanding based off the answer that was just given. So what you're saying is that the regs that are promulgated, if we were to leave them in effect for 2 years, are regs that would allow them to do cash games instead versus doing tournaments? Is that?
Madam Chair, if Delegate Kresick would like to answer, he's carrying the Texas Hold'ems.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So
Delegate Kresick.
what you didn't hear earlier in the testimony was that, yes, the General Assembly promulgated Texas Hold'em law a couple years ago, but it was for tournaments. What we're trying to stop is the cash games. And for all of those reasons, with the cash games, which you get, in the casino, you have lights, you have cameras, you have security, you have expertise, which you don't have in the little poker parlor that's doing a Texas Hold'em tournament. The tournaments were the idea of the General Assembly to kind of slowly replace what was kind of becoming boring and aging out, if you will, which is the bingo. And so that's what, in a tournament is not, you don't have, you still can make tons of money, but it's not as fast, and you don't lose money as quickly in the cash game where you can keep pulling money out of your wallet. And I noticed that VDAX is here in the back of the room, and I think that they can talk to the speed on which the regulations would take. I think that a two-year turnaround is not necessary because they've been working on it anyway. But I want to make it clear to Delegate Van Valkenburg that what's been going on is that this charitable gaming board has been the regulatory body, and they are the ones who have crafted these regulations, and they're the ones who we can agree to disagree, but they're the ones that have the conflict of interest. So what this bill does, and I will mention that the administration is supportive of this bill, is to clean that up and to make them an advisory body. They'll still have an important role, and they can still advise the commissioner at Department of Agriculture on how to do the the gaming, but they will no longer be the ones the kind of the fox guarding the hen house situation that we have right now. But if you will, maybe Mr. Menifee could come up and speak to, if it's the chairman would like, to the specifics of the actual how long it might take and anything else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Delegate Torrigan, did you have your follow-up question still?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me just make this very clear. I don't gamble. I've got a casino, MGM, that's 40 minutes from where I live. I've been there to the restaurants, but I don't gamble. So I don't have a personal interest in this. I know that there are a lot of moving parts with casinos, with this legislation that we have before us. I just wanted a simple question answered. Why can't they continue to do what they're doing now until the new regs are written? Is there harm in what they're doing now until the new regs are written? That's all I was asking. Listen, I don't want any enemies with the casino industry and you guys here. Madam Chair, I just had one simple question. What is the problem with them continuing what they're doing until the new regs are written? And from what I'm hearing, work has been done on it already, so it may take less than 2 years for the new regs to be written. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, if you'd like to hear from Mr. Menifee, I'm sure he'd be
Yes,
happy
that
to
was
come up and speak.
who I was going to ask to come speak.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Mike Menifee with VDAX. Specifically, I guess the question is how long the regs are going to take?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, obviously, there's a base for which the regulations were developed, and certainly we will take that as the base and work from that and make modifications to that with the advisement of industry with it. Specifically with time frame, I couldn't give you a hard time frame in terms of how quickly that will get done, but certainly we understand the gravity of the situation as well as the interest of the charities to get this done sooner. And certainly we will work with the Governor's Policy Office as well as the Cabinet Secretary to move this as quickly as possible. Now, in terms of what harm may come out of, I guess the question is to allow the regulations in which the board adopted moving forward. Is that the question?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
let me make sure I'm clear on this. The current regs in place, correct?
Well, the regulations were suspended by the budget, so
Madam
they're
Chair.
not in effect at this moment.
So, Madam Chair, follow up, please.
Dr. Torian.
So, can they still practice and participate in this game until new ones are written? And is there any harm with them continuing their practice?
Well, that's a bit of a legal question with regard to whether existing poker games can continue to operate. And so I'm not going to answer that question specifically. But in terms of the difference, for an example, the difference between the regulations that were obviously written at this point, something that we would look at and potentially address and something that we would review is the fact of the delineation or the relationships between the charity, the landlord who rents the facility to the charity, and the operator, which the charity has an option of using an operator, and understanding in that relationship between all three entities. If you go back to the study that the General Assembly conducted back in 1993 to 1994, it's a very thick study. And at that time, obviously, Texas Hold'em did not exist, but one of the things that came out specifically with the bingo operations was looked at the relationships between the charity that was conducting the bingo and the landlord at that time. And they found a lot of abuses with regards to that relationship where the landlord was essentially running the game in the name of the charity. The charities were not involved in that, and there was a lot of criminal prosecutions that were done at that point. And so certainly when you look at the bingo relationship, even in the charitable gaming regulations, as well as the law, it looks at that relationship and makes restrictions on how that relationship exists and governs that. When you look at Texas Hold'em regulations right now that's been drafted, there is no delineation. There is no restrictions on whether or not an operator can also have a charity, can also have be renting the facility to the operator and charity. And again, I'm not sure how we would necessarily address that, but certainly we would look at that relationship to make sure that there are not abuses or there's some safeguards in place to protect the charity. So that's just one point.
Delegate Knight.
Senator, I agree with you. This thing is kind of ripe for some corruption going on in there. I've been involved in this for years, and I think we do need some more enforcement. We do need some rewrite and everything, but I'm a little bit of a pragmatist, and I look and I see what Delegate Torian is saying, and he's right in a respect that 2 years is a long time. I've been taking the temperature on this a little bit within the House of Delegates, at the very least. And, I know that if you come and the word on the street is it's going to take 2 years, this bill maybe have a big fever. And that's just the way I'm looking at it, I'm just counting the votes here. But I don't know if there's anything. I don't like these cash games in here. It is ripe for fraud. It is too much money going in here. And I don't know how to fix it because I think 2 years is too long, but I don't like it going the way that it's going. So I didn't know what, the biggest problem was. Is the biggest problem cash games? If we could, this code's going to end on July 1st, of course. I don't know if we can get a regulation written, and I'm asking you, Senator, on to do away with cash games and tournaments only, and then they can flesh out the rest of it. And I'm kind of splitting this thing down the middle. I'm just looking for a little bit of a win on both sides. I'm looking for both sides to be mad at me is what I'm looking for, And I think that but where we're going to have a compromise on this thing or we're going to lose it all.
Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, the guy who gets it done is right here, and I can tell you, maybe he's not so forthcoming, but they know what's wrong with every one of these bills and what they'd like to see happen on every one of these bills. So my assumption, and I'm making an assumption, Mr. Menifee, you can correct me, but I don't foresee it taking 2 years at all. I think less than a year is probably very feasible for them, considering we've gone through these code sections time and time again. And the way we got here right now, to solidify what Delegate Torian had said, there's no real regulations in place. They were promulgated, but they weren't placed. Yet we have people out playing Texas Hold'em. So it's a clear violation of the code right now. So you're absolutely right, Mr. Chairman. So if you're trying to split the baby with the bathwater, so to speak, I'd be happy to take it out a year. But I think we've got to do something to get them back up where we're running and we keep accountability. I don't think we want cash games. More importantly, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, I would tell you that changing the makeup of the board goes a long way to getting rid of those conflicts of interest and taking that regulations away and turning it over to Mr. Menifee. So I'd absolutely welcome if there's an amendment that you would like to make, Mr. Chairman, that I think is feasible that does that, reaches that balance. I'd be happy to entertain
Madam
that.
Chair?
Delegate Kriesik.
Mr. Menifee, I have a question for Mr. Menifee. I do believe there is an expedited process, review process, and what we're talking about, what the chairman is talking about is so that we could get the tournament poker, Texas Hold'em tournament poker going right away. And that should take less than 6 months, am I correct? Is that something we need to put in this bill, that we could ask for an expedited process?
Madam Chair, in response to the delegate's question, I meant certainly that the body can exempt the regulations from the Administrative Process Act, which is what's being, I guess, the area of concern about it taking 2 to 3 years or much more longer. If the body wishes to exempt the development of the regulations from the APA, then obviously that's a desire of the body to do so, and that would speed it up the process.
Mr. Chairman, or Madam Chair, provided that we've taken that regulatory authority away from the board and it now lies in his office. Otherwise, we're letting them promulgate their own regulations again. We're right back where we were.
Madam Chair.
Delegate Knight.
It looks to me like we're really, really close on this thing. We just need to do a little bit of wordsmithing. And I don't know if we could maybe buy this for the day, and if the chairman thinks we can get something worked out to hear it at full committee. I'm just kind of grasping at straws here because I'd like to try to fix this if I could. And I think we're very close, but I hate to fix this thing on the fly.
It'd be nice if we could maybe adopt principle and concept with understanding that substitute would be, or amendment would be presented at full committee. If there's something tangible you can wrap your, get staff to begin working on.
Madam Chair, I'm amenable to that, and we have Mr. Menifee here with council here. I'm sure we can get it carved up pretty quick.
Well, we're not meeting again in full until Thursday.
We can get it done by Thursday for sure.
So we have, so in concept,
Yeah, so, Madam Chair, I think
Like
what
Creasic.
we're talking about in concept is exempt the development of the whatever what's it called, the
Administrative.
the APA, and to get this thing so that it's 6 to 9 months or so, and that it's just for Texas Hold'em tournaments.
so I have a question.
Yeah.
And will they be able to continue to play up until that time, or continue under this current, or are we going to stop it now and then, and we're going to stop it until July?
I mean,
Madam Chair, they're not supposed to be playing right
Whatever the
now.
law is right now.
Okay, so then,
So-
so it's illegal right now from the law standpoint?
I think we're in that gray zone, as Mr. Menifee said. He's the enforcement arm, but I would tell you that I don't think they're supposed to be playing cash games right now, and they're doing it.
Okay. So in concept,
I make that motion, concept.
Second.
okay, there's been a motion and a second made in concept to accept the expedited APA process. And all in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.
Madam Chair, thank you all for all the hard work. I know it's not
Well,
an
thank
easy
you.
issue. Thank you.
And then we're going to pass it by for the day.
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
You need a motion for that.
Okay. Can't make a motion, right?
I move to send Senate Bill 402 without recommendation to full committee.
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. So we have one more bill on our docket. Senator Saslaw asked me earlier today if he needed to be present for this bill, and I told him no unless we got into trouble, and we do have someone who can speak on his behalf, I believe. So this is Senate Bill 527, and Delegate Knight is going to present the bill.
This is the same bill I had a few years ago, and what they did is they went by for the year on this bill to get the colleges to all get together, see what they said, some different people said, and the compromise was ABC said that they would not put this particular spirit within a certain area of colleges. Now we put a sunset on it. Now the sunset's extended. They haven't had any problems with the colleges or anywhere else around. They've set a little bit higher price on this particular spirit. There's some cheaper spirits. Make a long story short, there haven't seemed to be any problems that we are aware of. So we would like to, I guess, are they extending the sunset on this? Removing the sunset. And I would so move.
Any discussion from the committee? Any discussion from the committee on this? Any questions? All right, so cast your vote. And that bill passes out 8-0. That concludes sub 3's business for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.